She never imagined her quiet, simple life would collide with the world of the wealthy. Emily was just an ordinary woman, content with her small-town routine, until fate brought her face to face with Daniel, one of the most influential billionaires in the country. Their connection was instant, the kind that felt rare and unshakable. To Daniel, Emily wasn't impressed by his power or money. She saw the man behind the fortune, and for a while, their love seemed unstoppable. But soon, whispers began to spread. Emily's family, who once supported her, started questioning Daniel's intentions. They saw his wealth as a danger, a wall that could separate her from them forever. Tensions grew, and small doubts turned into sharp accusations. Daniel's past, something he had kept carefully guarded, became the center of every conversation. Emily was caught between the man she loved and the people she'd known her entire life. The more she defended Daniel, the more her family pushed back, until one secret, buried deep in his history, surfaced. It was the kind of truth that could either prove his love beyond doubt or shatter everything they had built together. And on the day it came to light, nothing would ever be the same. Emily met Daniel on a rainy afternoon at a small cafe, long before she knew his last name carried weight in every business circle. He was charming but quiet, with an ease that made her forget the world outside. Over time, she learned bits and pieces about his life: a sprawling estate outside the city, a company that employed thousands, and a schedule packed with meetings across the globe. Still, none of that seemed to matter to her. What mattered was the way he listened, the way he remembered the smallest details she shared. Her family at first was intrigued. They welcomed him with polite smiles, curious about the man who had captured Emily's heart. But as months passed, their questions became sharper. Where did his fortune really come from? Why was he so guarded about his past? Some relatives whispered about old scandals tied to his name, while others feared he would eventually leave her for someone from his own world. Daniel never raised his voice, but Emily could see the strain in his eyes whenever the subject came up. And then came the day her older brother hinted that he knew something that could explain why Daniel kept certain doors in his life tightly closed. Emily's brother wouldn't say much that night, only that Daniel's past wasn't as spotless as he wanted everyone to believe. The way he spoke, slow, deliberate, made Emily's stomach twist. She tried to push it aside, convincing herself it was just another attempt to plant doubts. But the next morning, she noticed Daniel was quieter than usual, lost in thought, as if he could sense the growing storm around them. At family gatherings, the air grew heavy. Conversations paused when Daniel walked into the room. Emily's cousin began dropping hints about a business deal years ago that ended in betrayal, though she refused to give details. Even Emily's closest friend, Sarah, who had always supported her, started to ask if she truly knew the man she loved. Meanwhile, Daniel's own world seemed to be closing in. Late-night phone calls ended abruptly when Emily walked into the room. Envelopes arrived in the mail, sealed and marked confidential, that he tucked away without explanation. Emily tried to keep her faith in him, but the uncertainty gnawed at her. One evening, she overheard Daniel speaking to someone on the phone, his voice low and urgent. The only words she caught were enough to send chills down her spine. "They can't find out." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The words she had overheard played again and again in her mind, twisting into possibilities she didn't want to imagine. Daniel lay beside her, his breathing steady, but his hand wasn't resting on hers the way it used to. The silence between them felt heavier than any argument. The next day, her brother called, his voice urgent. "Meet me alone," he said. "It's about Daniel." He wouldn't give more over the phone, and Emily felt a rush of dread as she agreed. On the way there, her mind raced. Was it a lie to turn her against him? Or was there something real she had been blind to all along? When she arrived, her brother handed her a plain envelope. Inside were photocopies of documents, financial records, letters, and one grainy photograph that made her heart stop. "This is why we're worried," he told her. But before she could ask questions, her phone buzzed. It was Daniel, asking where she was, his tone sharper than she'd ever heard as Emily stood there. The wind picking up around them, she realized every choice from this moment on would change everything. And somewhere deep inside, she knew Daniel was keeping more than one secret. Emily slipped the envelope into her bag, her hands trembling as she stepped away from her brother. She didn't know if the evidence inside was real or just another attempt to turn her against Daniel, but the unease in her chest was impossible to ignore. As she walked toward her car, she noticed a black sedan parked across the street. Its tinted windows reflected the dim light, and though she couldn't see inside, she felt the weight of someone's gaze on her. Her phone buzzed again this time. Not a call, but a message from an unknown number. "Be careful who you trust. He's not the only one with secrets." The words sent a shiver down her spine. Was this about Daniel or her own family? She glanced back, but the sedan was gone. That night, Daniel confronted her. He didn't ask where she had been, he told her. He described the cafe she'd met her brother at, the exact time she left, even the color of the coat she wore. Emily's breath caught. How did he know? Daniel's eyes, usually warm, were unreadable as he said quietly, "You need to tell me everything, before it's too late for both of us." Emily's pulse raced as she stood in the living room, the unopened envelope still hidden in her bag. Daniel stepped closer, his voice low but steady. "I've been followed for weeks," he said. "It's not by the press, not by rivals, by someone in your family." His words hit harder than she expected. She opened the envelope and spilled its contents across the table: financial papers, letters, and that grainy photograph. Daniel's eyes went cold. "I know where these came from," he said, his jaw tightening. "Your brother isn't protecting you, Emily. He's the one trying to destroy me. And us." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. This time, a video played security footage of her brother meeting with a man she didn't recognize, exchanging cash for the very documents she now held. The timestamp was from just 2 days ago. Her chest tightened as the truth sank in. Daniel looked at her, not with anger, but with a quiet sadness. "He wanted you to believe I was the danger." Emily realized the real betrayal had been much closer than she thought. But just as she reached for Daniel's hand, her phone lit up with one final message from that unknown number. "You still don't know everything." Emily stared at the glowing screen, the words blurring in her vision. She had thought the envelope, the photograph, and the video were the end of the lies, but now, this final message hinted at shadows still lurking behind the truth. Daniel took her hand, his grip steady. "We can dig deeper," he said softly, "but only if we do it together." In the days that followed, Emily confronted her brother. His silence spoke more than his words ever could. He admitted to working with someone who wanted control over Daniel's company, using her trust as leverage. The betrayal stung, but Emily understood now that fear and greed had driven him. She walked away from the conversation knowing she couldn't change his choices, only her own. With time, the tension eased. Daniel opened the parts of his past he had kept guarded, not to defend himself, but to show her there was nothing left to hide. Emily realized their love had survived because it was built on more than wealth or image. It had been tested by fire and still stood strong. Looking back, she knew the truth was rarely simple, and trust was something you chose even when the answers weren't perfect. And for her, that choice was Daniel.